Shut up and sit down.
Namaste, friends. I'm Simon.
I'm Ellie.
And if you enjoy our videos, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, hit that bell thing. That would be very kind of you indeed. And as usual, we're being surprised by you guys tonight who have recommended movies that we're checking out the trailers for and filming our reactions to those.
So what do we have next?
Well, next up, we have a 2010 Hindi language movie that I've got to say, the premise just sounds awesome. A little heavy going, but awesome. This is the story of a Muslim man who is autistic, and he marries a woman who has a child from a previous relationship, and unfortunately her child is actually murdered in a hate crime after the 9/11 terrorist attacks in New York City. Now, the woman is obviously heartbroken at the loss of her child. She tells the man that she's going to leave him and he's not to come back until he convinces the President of the United States that he's not a terrorist. And being highly autistic, he takes that literally. So the movie is then about him trying to convince the President of the United States that just because he's a Muslim, he's not a terrorist. How about that? So as well as being a very, very original story concept, this got a ton of positive reviews, and it was really seen as opening the door to storytellers who may not otherwise have felt brave enough to tell their own story. And as an example, when they filmed this movie, they were actually unable to film in a mosque in Los Angeles because of the hate crimes that were happening against Muslims in the United States during that time. They were just afraid to have any coverage that may run any risk of escalating the violence against Muslims. So clearly, as well as being a very, very highly regarded movie, it also covers some pretty heavy-going topics. So we're going to go ahead, check out the trailer now for My Name is Khan. If you want to see what we think about it, then stick around until the end. But for now,
Let's go.
Let's go.
The Western world marks history simply by BC and AD. I mark it by the moment I first saw you. After a lifetime of being different, I finally had my happy life.
Oh, man.
But the day that changed everything, changed the way the world saw us, and it changed the way you looked at me.
Oh, no.
Mandira, मुझे कभी एक मुसलमान के साथ शादी नहीं करनी चाहिए थी. Go right now, go.
I must take this journey, no matter how difficult it is, and then you will love me again.
Would you come with me, sir?
Wow.
Why are you going to Washington, D.C.? I'm going to meet the President of the United States. I have something to say to him.
Goodness.
Mr. President! My name is Khan, and I'm not a terrorist.
Wow, so we've just seen the international trailer for My Name is Khan. I still have goosebumps. What a powerful story. What did you think of the trailer?
It is very powerful. And I think the hardest part of it is knowing how many people actually experienced that, who were the victim of hate crimes.
Yeah.
Just because of the colour of their skin, like not even necessarily their religion, because I don't think the people who committed the hate crimes had much of an understanding of nuance of Indian faith, and it was just horrific. So I think that's the hardest part, is knowing how many people actually had to live through that.
Yeah, that's right. And I think on both sides as well. I mean, clearly, the victims of terrorism, it's a horrendous thing. And, it has certainly escalated recently, but it's been going on for decades, if not centuries. And, but as you say, being tarred with the same brush, as it were, as the terrorists when you're completely innocent. And, there were a lot of people who suffered from hate crimes just due to looking the same or having the same religious beliefs or coming from the same country as the country that the terrorist happened to come from. So, yeah, I think it's a really brave story to tell. And especially this was in 2010 as well. It was less than a decade after 9/11. And, sure, 9/11 was a horrifying event that the world looked at and was unprecedented in so many ways. But there had been terrorist attacks, around the world for, as I say, for decades before that. So, this was nothing new. It just felt like an escalation of the same thing. But I do feel like this was such a brave story to tell. And to be able to tell it through the lens of a love story as well, of just a man who is so in love with a woman who, it clearly kind of told his winning of that woman to start with by just really sweet means, and then to go through this whole journey just to try to win her back. And yet at the same time, he's trying to change the views of a world leader, which is, a whole different scale to just winning his wife back after a tragedy. So, and it almost looks like as well, like you have, him trying to win his wife back, the bigger picture of the president and the world at large. And then you also have, the tragedy of her losing her son overshadowed by the tragedy of the World Trade Centers. And, it seems like such a clever story, and the way it seems to be constructed, that I'm actually surprised that I've never heard of this before until our viewers recommended it. I also find it really interesting that he is cast as an autistic man, which you don't actually see a lot of autistic, either autistic actors or characters who are portrayed as autistic in an accurate way. And I can't tell just through this trailer how accurate it is. And clearly autism is a sliding scale of, relatively minor symptoms that people can get through day to day with versus, really severe symptoms that mean that they require constant care. So we don't know where on that scale he is, but that would also be a fascinating angle to me, just to learn how much, he's suffering and how he's getting through it and how that's portrayed in the movie. Well, thank you so much to our viewers for recommending My Name is Khan. I've got to say, and maybe it's just because we saw the international trailer that had English in it, which kind of certainly helped outline the story, but it looks like a really, really interesting movie. And I think the fact that it's an Indian cultural movie, but it's set in the United States, I think always gives it an interesting nuance as well. Like, life as an immigrant is not easy here, and I think that's another angle that looks like it's going to come through. So there's a lot that I would love to see in here, and again, I'm kind of surprised that we've never heard of it before. So hey, thanks very much for the recommendations. Please keep them coming, and we try to get to as many as we can. However, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. So we will see you tomorrow, friends, on the next Dork Trailer Ambush.
Peace out, nerds.
Shut up and sit down.